All right. Good evening, family. Again, this is Southeast Seventh-day Adventist Church. This is our study after our prayer time. On prayer meeting, we have prayer time beginning with sweet hour of prayer at 6:45 every Wednesday night. You can check our website, se7day.org, or just Google us and you will find us. We love to have you live with us. We don't record the prayer time for privacy reasons, but we do record our study time right after prayer time. And that's what this is. We are in the book Creeping Compromise. We're almost at the end. This is our second and last night on Meat or Unmeat. So I expect it to be fun. Let's pray. Father, thank you for what we have shared so far. And now, Lord, we pray that you bless our time together. Speak to us, Holy Spirit. Help us to do what we don't have the fleshly power to do. But in your spirit, you promise that we can do all things through Christ Jesus. We thank you for that promise in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. All right. Y'all ready? You ready to continue from last week? I just get such a chuckle out of some of the folks who were trying to just get through the tough parts of this book. You know, when we started, people were just skipping all over the first part, which is really good because they're thinking, man, he's gonna talk about jewelry at some point. So let's talk about the jewelry. And then we finally get through cosmetics and makeup and all that. And you thought, well, I'm safe now. Well, not so fast. Let's talk about the swimming pool. Y'all remember that? Talk about our dress. And now we're dealing with meat. Boy, you just jumped out of the skillet into the frying pan, and it is so much fun. Look, don't be mad at me. We're just sharing some information. I find this book very interesting. I'm not looking for somebody to beat over the head. All I'm doing is creating opportunities for us to talk as a family, because when I'm standing in the pulpit preaching to you, we can't talk. You can't learn from me, and I can't learn from you, and we can't study together. I'll tell you a secret I shared with Sister Aretha earlier today, that some of the best sermon materials come from our conversations. Things that I don't think of, you guys bring up. Questions that I haven't even thought to ask, you ask it, and it makes me go search it out. And I think that's a good thing. So please don't be offended. Let's just read and talk. All right. Do I have a volunteer to pick up where we left off last week? Somebody wants to read? Anybody?
I'll do it for you, Pastor. Oh, that's okay. Who was that?
Mother Watts.
Okay. Go ahead, Mother Watts.
Listen at y'all being so kind to each other. Okay. All right. Go right ahead.
Okay. Meat or Unmeat, Chapter 9, page 94. Again and again, I have been shown that God is trying to lead us back, step by step, to his original design, that man subsist upon the natural products of the earth, among those who are waiting for the coming of the Lord. Meat eating will eventually be done away. Flesh will cease to form a part of their diet. We should ever keep this end in view and endeavor to work steadily towards it. IBID.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Page 450. Again, okay, those who are in a position where it is possible to secure a vegetarian diet, but who choose to follow their own preferences in this matter, eating and drinking as they please, will gradually grow careless of the instruction the Lord has given regarding other phases of the present truth, and will lose their perception of what is true. And that's in Testimonies, Volume 9, page 156 and 157. I have the subject presented to me in different aspects. The mortality caused by meat eating is not discerned. If it were, we would hear no more argument and excuses in the favor of the indulgence of the appetite for dead flesh. Ooh. Medical Ministry, page 278. One amazing fact about this counsel is the way it is rejected by ministers and leaders in the church. With the time of trouble at hand and the flock starving for spiritual direction, pastors are still feasting on the flesh part of Egypt and causing the people to err by their own perverted examples. Although meat eating per se has never been designated as a sin by this church, what about preachers who do not respond to specific counsel like the following? Let not any of our ministries set an evil example in the eating of flesh meat. Let them and their families live up to the light of health reform. That's in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 399. Can we possibly have confidence in ministers who sit at tables where flesh is served, join with others in eating it? In IBID, page 402.
All right. Well, I didn't skip over it when she says something, or the author says something about preachers. I don't skip it, even though I'm the only one sitting here. Let's talk about it. All right. Any thoughts about what you just heard? And so certainly, Watch, you can just go right ahead since you're reading.
Yes, it says eating the meat and flesh of animals is not a good thing, even though we indulge ourselves from the front of the church to the back of the church. Lord. And those sitting on the seats. It's not a good thing. We were born to be vegetarians, but when sin came into it and the flood, we all became meat eaters. And it's one of those things that's hard to get over. And some of us won't get over.
All right, please mute yourself. If you're not talking, mute yourself, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Sister Watts.
The moment you say steak, someone says, where's the steak sauce? And it goes from there, or, you see the lamb walking by and you say, okay, or the chicken, you say, you walking by me now, but come 6 o'clock, I'll see you on the table. That's a Southern thing.
There's a Southern thing that I got for y'all from Alabama. A chicken ain't got a chance in the hood. They ain't got a chance.
Not at all. and right now, the kids running around, they starting to take their life in their hands because the price of meat is going up and they may be the next thing.
Yes, indeed. I can't help but laugh. But my. Deacon King, man, did you change your mind?
No, I did not. I was just wondering in my personal consciousness. Last week when we were talking and how we started out this week about commitment and making the personal choice to follow the health message as Seventh-day Adventists. And I was toying with the idea, and come this past Tuesday, Popeye's Chicken has a reduced price on and I ended up getting 3 meals and feasted on one and woke up the next day with a guilt conscience. And I said, well, I'm going to take this last bite off of this piece and I'm going to discard it and follow more committedly. And I thought I would just share that testimony because I was talking also about every once in a while sticking my finger into the barbecue sauce. But that is just basically a guilt conscience I had to share, Pastor, also, since you was giving us the commitment that a faithful leader has to be able to be received by the flock. And we are your listeners and your students and your family. Really appreciate that. And all praises go to God.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Thank you so much. Well, right now he's going right at the preachers, and he's a preacher himself. And I just wonder what you guys, I have my thoughts about it, but I just want to know what you think. Elder Parker, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. I was thinking about how in the Sunday church, we used to call it the gospel bird, because every Sunday when they had a potluck dinner, there was chicken of course. Fried chicken, they fry it right down in the basement on Sunday morning. And the thing is that we get so used to doing certain things that it's a hard habit to break when we try to make a commitment to change, as representative of Deacon King man's testimony. We can very easily say this is something we want to do, but then we have a lapse moment and you go back into it. But we have to make sure, as the pastor was saying from the book, as leaders, we have to make sure that we lead, because when we get up and talk, people say, okay, man, you were sitting down eating chicken yesterday together. Now you're talking about chicken is bad. Or we were eating steak out at the steakhouse on Friday, and now you say steak is bad. We have to stand fast to our commitment. And then looking at that picture that you had up at the, look like a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, talking about specifically, Elder, and you can finish right after this. Specifically, right now, he walks us down one step at a time. I got to give it to Pastor Cruz on that one. Right now, he ain't messing with chicken yet. Right now, he's talking about the beef. He's specifically talking about the beef. But go ahead. And he's talking about the pastor sitting down to dinner. How can you preach it with conviction when you are continuing to partake? That's specifically what he's talking about.
And that is so true. We have to do the thing that's right. And like the health message that Sister White has, we have to make sure that when we read the health message that we are going to adhere to it, because it will come back and bother your conscience after a while if you don't do it. And it's not easy, as I stated earlier. It is not easy at all, because you, me, and everybody else, we have that desire. When you smell something, you want it. And actually, sometimes you can even taste it. Your mouth starts salivating because you can just have the remembrance of the taste. It ain't nothing but the devil, but you know, it's real.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I won't let your wife in here. Sister Parker, go ahead.
You know, looking at the meat and everything, have any y'all seen the recalls that they're recalling all this different meat? They're recalling beef, they're recalling chicken, they're recalling bottom feeders. Bottom feeders, if some don't know, is shrimp and lobster and fish that swim towards the bottom.
Something up in here. Go ahead, Sister Parker.
But the thing is, we got to look at this, because what they're injecting and how the environment, even at the bottom of the ocean, is changing. And these animals are, you know, fish are living down there. But then they catch them, but they're contaminated. And they're really saying a certain type of shrimp to be very careful of. But these animals, how they pumping them up. And I said this before. Ground beef, how they're injecting it with coloring dye to make it look so pretty at the store, so it won't look all grayish looking and dry. And chickens, how they pumping them up. This stuff is having an adverse reaction on these animals, which what brings it to us. And that's a lot that, and it's going to get worse or not better, because meat is going to really be hard to come by. And they go be doing anything to pump them up to sell them in the store. But the thing is, that's where we got to pray and ask God, you know, is this right for my body? It's good tonight, but what about tomorrow?
Mercy.
You know, the reaction. But get on YouTube and type in meat recalls. You will be surprised.
Yeah.
But they not telling the people. But yet we're all human, you know. But I know God looks out for us, but we got to look out for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to think about, the recalls of the meat and what's really going on in the meat industry. And again, I'm going to say this. On YouTube, they had this cow, and they cut this cow hindquarters, and that infection that spewed out of that cow. And you look down, they milking the cow. Who getting that milk? It's something to think about, saints. I know I used to like meat once upon a time, but the thing is, your body, the reactions from it, your body. And is God pleased with that? You know, if I bit into a piece of meat right now, boy, it would just take me out of here because I can't do that. And you got to think about the poor animal, how they kicking them off the ramps and stuff.
Yeah.
Throwing them in the bins and hitting them in the head with hammers. All for you, a pork chop.
Wow.
Yeah, think about that. Knocking the animal in the head. All for you, a pork chop.
Yeah.
And the animal activists, you know, I agree with them because these animals are being abused. And it's not right for you, a pork chop and bacon.
Yeah.
That animal being beat in the head, blood coming out of his eyes, all for you, a bacon.
Well, Sister Parker, save some for later. This is just the beginning of the lesson.
But
We want people to stay to the end. I got this image in my head of hitting the animal in the head. We got a few more pages to go.
I'm sorry, Pastor.
Save it for a little later.
Love y'all.
You're good. I just don't want you to put it all out right at the beginning. Save some bullets for your gun because he got. I
love y'all.
You too. Remind me of my grandma. She would, Granny would tell us something we really didn't like. And then after she got done, she said, I love you. Tell me you love me. I won't tell you I love you after that. No, I get it. I believe it. Okay, I'm gonna come back to you. Just save that. Dr. Pam, go right ahead.
Yes. So I guess one of our problems, if you're used to eating meat, then sometimes we think we don't have a meal if we don't have meat. But I have a granddaughter. She is a vegan, actually, and she's been a vegan since birth. And when I went to visit her, we went out to a restaurant to eat, and I ordered some meat. And she saw me eating the meat, and she started crying, Grandma, you're eating an animal. She was really upset that she saw me eating this. And today, I love pasta. And I thought I was getting pasta with a giant meatball in it, covered with spaghetti and tomato sauce and all that. It was spaghetti Pardaro. I should have looked it up. But when I got it, I started looking for the meatball, and there was no meatball in there. It was just spaghetti. And I was about ready to send it back and say, what happened to the meatball? But I said, let me just go ahead and eat this. I don't need this meatball. And it was actually delicious. So we know how so we know how to make food correctly to enjoy it. The flavors, I mean, I could taste the vegetables, the tomatoes and everything. I said, this is even better without the meat. So we can learn to do that. The pastors can learn to do that. As far as examples, I guess it'd be hard for pastors to do that too. I guess if we would do it, we would kind of encourage each other to do it and do it as a group.
Yeah, well, Sister Elder Eldrima, he's clearly saying that, and I don't really take it as condemning. I think in this first little phrase of a couple of paragraphs is he's not discounting that it can be difficult. But he's saying you can't preach the excuse making from the pulpit. And if you really want to preach the message, you have to make an effort yourself as the preacher. And maybe this won't be the last one, because I'm interested in, I know Sister White's journey and struggle with it. And it was very beneficial to me to read that God gave her this message before any of this science, and she herself struggled. It was like coming off drugs, the way she described her struggle, but she overcame. And I am so happy that she didn't hide that from us, that she shared it with us, because it's encouraging to people like me. So thank you so much, Elder. Great comments. Deacon Mike, go right ahead.
I was watching something on YouTube earlier today, and I had to kind of chuckle about it because we've heard about it before throughout the Bible. It was a lion protecting a calf. I said a calf, not a lion. It was an actual calf. Another lion came to attack that calf, This lion went out of its way to attack the other lion to protect that calf. You know, more and more that I see, and we're making it a practice on ourselves as well, to get away from eating the meats altogether, because we're not supposed to be. Meats were there, after the floods to basically to help us until the vegetations came back. Once the vegetations came back, I think it was meant for us to stop eating the meat and go back to eating the vegetations, the nuts, grains, and what we're supposed to be eating. But, and not only that, with the stuff that you see in the store, the chicken, I've been raised on farms. I've never seen chicken breast as big as I see them in the stores today.
You sound like my wife. She says that all the
they're
time.
injected with something.
Yeah, she talks like that all the time, Mike. Even if it's not chicken, if it's anything, that thing is too big. I ain't buying. I'm like, Sister Hood, thing can get bigger. She's like, no, that's too big. So I hear you. I hear you.
Pastor, let me ask you a question.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm not trying to muddy the water too much, but is eating meat a moral failure? I think that's what I'm trying. As I listen to the strong statements, that's the question I want to present. Is eating meat a moral failure?
Well, I'm not sure when you came in, but
I've been here the whole time.
Oh, okay.
I
So
argue when he said, "Yeah, it's only for the pastors." I said, "Well, I'm gonna come on your side," but then I say, "No, let me hear what he got to say."
well, I think that we should let him make his own case. I don't want to talk for the author. You see what he's referred to here on the screen. He's referred to a couple of quotes from Sister White. And let me go back to this one. This one right here from Medical Ministry. I have the subject presented to me in different aspects. The mortality caused by meat eating is not discerned. If it were, we would hear no more arguments and excuses in favor of the indulgence of the appetite for dead flesh. I think everybody draw from that what you will, but I think that he is simply quoting Sister White. And remember, there was not the science and the research then. It was simply her speaking in the spirit. And our own lives and the lives of people around us testify to the results. The results tell you whether or not something is good or not. And I know we all got that one uncle who lived to 150. He smoked, drank, and ate steak every day and nothing happened. That's not the majority. That's the minority. People always point out one person that nothing went wrong. But the issue here, I'm trying not to get ahead of him, Pastor. That's what I'm doing. But the issue here is, it is clear. Now he's talking in 1971. Let's put this in perspective. If meat was contaminated then, what do you think is taking place in 2022? All right, Elder Hood, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, what I think about is, on a personal, just my walking relationship with God, is my ultimate goal is to get back to eating, because I think it's the master class we were talking about. You were talking about Eden and what happened in the garden, and what was forfeited as a result. Sin entered in, and what they lost, Adam and Eve lost in their disobedience. And so if my ultimate goal is to get back to Eden, then what was it like in Eden? And so going back means that I have to prepare myself to live in Eden. And so, just thinking about that, it's going to require me to, be fit, both spiritually and physically. Of course, I know we're going to get a glorified body, yet I'm supposed to be preparing. I should be walking heavenward. And so, in reference to what is being said, the food was what it was back then, and it hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse. And, just a testimony that I gave in reference to my mom, I truly believe that it's attributed to her diet. She, just looking at how, since she's been with us, yes, I grew up Adventist. My mom, was always health conscious. Yet when she lived in Florida and began to age and, living by herself and not having the help that she needed, her diet started to take a dive. And so, I truly believe that, God knew exactly what he was doing when he gave us the diet that he gave us from the beginning. Because, I mean, just think about when you eat a piece of meat, how does it make you feel? You're tired, you're sluggish, you want to go lie down. However, when you eat that plant-based and vegetable diet, you're full of energy. And so, I don't know about moral failure or whatever, but what I do know is that God wants us to be fit for the journey. And our diet plays a major role in whether or not, and if we believe the third angel's message, there's no, well, I'm not going to get too far. Okay. Yes, that
Yes, and
I'll
that's
stop.
why I stopped, because I
Okay.
don't want to,
Yeah.
and we've been fighting that since the beginning of this book, not to get ahead of the author. Let him walk us through it. It's an excellent question, Pastor, for sure. And I really have an answer, but I don't want to preempt what the preacher is, how he's presenting it. I don't want to disrupt how he's walking us through it, but we're certainly coming back to it.
All right, all right.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Pastor. You can jump in at any time. Okay. All right, Mother Watts.
All right. Okay. Will any who are ministers of the gospel, proclaiming the most solemn truth ever given to mortals, set an example in returning to the flesh pot of Egypt? Will those who are supported by the tide from God's storehouse permit themselves by self-indulgence to poison the life-giving current flowing through their veins? Will they disregard the light and warnings that God has given them? That's in I Big page 404 and 405.
All right.
The position of flesh-eating Seventh-day Adventists becomes more untenable when we consider the massive physical evidence pointing to contaminated, deceased meat sources. It is more than stomach-turning to read recent reports of packing house inspections which have uncovered the grossest violations of minimal sanitary standards. Ooh. The Consumers Union tested hundreds of hamburger samples from a cross-section of retail suppliers. The test specifically identified fecal contaminations, often indicating a disease-causing organism. The starting results of this research was published in Consumer Reports magazine of August 1971. The objective conclusions of this test indicated that 73% of the samples had a coliform count high enough to cause mild illness. In view of the fact that hamburgers constitute more than half of America's beef consumption, we have to believe that a vast health danger is involved, even if we consider only the external handling of meat. Consumers Union estimated that almost a quarter of the ready ground samples had begun to putrefy at the retail outlet. Oh boy. An independent check of 68 poultry processing plants by the government According Office, that's JAO, in 1971 found sanitation conditions unacceptable in most of them. Products in over half of them were contaminated with fecal matters, digestive tract contents, bile, and feathers. That's
All
not
right.
good. Considering I polished off some chicken wings this evening.
Your mercy.
That's not good.
Mercy.
Okay.
All right. How much, I mean, does anybody care what happens before the meat gets to the store? Does that change the way you see eating meat? Anyone?
Does to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. Elder Parker, go ahead.
I don't eat meat anymore, but just from the things that my wife was talking about, we talked about some time ago, and now from reading this from back in 1971, that should give you a pause, because they're putting out animals faster now, because not only is the population bigger, but people are also eating more than actually they need to eat. And I used to work in a butcher shop years ago, and I remember cutting up, chicken and slicing steaks and stuff like that. And I look at the meat now, and I'm talking when I was about 13, 14 years old. That was 56 years ago. It looked a whole lot better. Now the meat does not even look red, it looks pink. So now, if it doesn't have the color it should have, you should start thinking about what is wrong with it. And then you can buy some chicken at the store, you can buy some steak at the store, whatever you want to buy at the store. And most of the time you can smell the putrefying, especially after you stop eating it.
I was going to say that, Elder Parker, and you can continue after this if you don't mind me interrupting. I know that in some, when it's not a national chain grocery store and you go in there, or you just go in the meat market, you could smell it as soon as the door is open.
Amen.
As you walk through the door, you could smell the meat.
Amen. And that should make you think, what's going on. But we have a tendency, and I have to agree with what was being said in the book, is that we have a tendency not to really think about what is actually going on because we want it. We have a desire. It's like a drug. I'm gonna say this and be quiet. I can't remember what book it was in that I was reading by Ellen G. White. But she said in the book itself, she said in the end times, in the last days, when the church is really going to be under persecution, flesh eaters are going to have a hard time. She was talking about when the 666 come out, when the mark of the beast come out.
Yeah.
She was saying that meat eaters, flesh eaters, are going to have a hard time resisting, because they are going to be desiring and lusting after their flesh.
Wow. Wow. All right. You and your wife throwing some haymakers tonight. Let's see, for people who hadn't eaten dinner and that, they probably hate both of y'all. I'm just joking. All right, Deacon Kingman, come on in.
The confessions that we are hearing and the questions that are being asked is so uplifting for those of us that, when you just asked the question, do we really, however you phrased it, the answer to that is yes, we know, we've heard this before. Yeah. And in my thoughts go back to when Oprah Winfrey was challenging the cattle industry, and they threatened to sue her for defamation of character.
Yeah. Go ahead. I forgot about that. Go ahead.
And all of a sudden, the compassion for non-eating of meat began to grow again. And what I'm saying is that to help bring it on home, when we look at individuals like yourself, Pastor Kalau, and myself, as we begin to make the commitment to cut the meat away, our bodies begin to change. I've seen a few pastors that I've become acquainted with in the Seventh-day Adventist family that were big and protruding stomachs. And it seemed like that when they changed their diet, they their body began to transform into a more healthy state. And I'm not going to call no names because it's not fair when they're not here to receive the compliments, and I'm not going to criticize. So what I'm just saying is that it helps us when we have leadership that are asking these wonderful questions and then giving the testimonies like you and Pastor Kalau. So as we've stepped forward into the next day, and myself, well, I said, I took that last bite and said, at least I'm just going to chew it. I'm not going to swallow it, and discarded it. I had to laugh at myself because the devil was laughing at us, saying, yeah, y'all making all these wonderful confessions now. What are you going to do for a month from now? And so I just wanted to just enroll some support for myself and for all of us as a church, because as the remnant church, we have a responsibility to set the world at peace and help with the ministry of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And yeah, you don't have to call any names because I'm going to talk about myself in a few minutes when we get a few more pages in. Sister Parker, come on back. This is your time.
You know, I was listening to what Mother Watts was talking about, the fecal matter. Can anybody remember it was this year that Popeyes got cited for having rat droppings and rats running around in a kitchen in one state?
No.
Mercy, I didn't hear that. My goodness.
Yes. The people that delivered the meat, and I guess it was a night guard or whoever, let them in. And they saw this and took pictures. You can go on YouTube, took pictures, and they brought it back and put it on YouTube. He got fired and the night guard got fired too for letting this, be seen. But the thing is, saints, we don't know what's going on in the kitchen.
Mercy.
Think about that. You sitting out there waiting for your dinner. They could have dropped your chicken on the floor. Woo. And then picked it up and put it back on your plate. You'll never know because they sure not gonna tell us.
Wow.
That's why it paid to pray, and I know everybody do, pray over our food. But the thing is, what goes on in the kitchen, you'll never know. And nowadays, they're not getting a lot of the products to put the food together like it should be put together. And it is losing its taste and its looks, but yet they're still trying to sell it to us. They got to keep that business going.
Wow.
They do. I'm sorry. You don't know. We don't know.
Look, I thought you hit me in the stomach last time you commented. But my goodness, Popeyes?
Yes, Popeyes. They could stick their finger in your milk and you'll never know it.
Mercy. Now, when I went to Popeyes, they're usually eating while they waiting on me at the window.
This wasn't in Ohio. This was not Ohio now.
Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Mother.
Mercy, I got to look that up. Thank you so much.
And rats running around in the kitchen
at
night.
Running around in the kitchen. Good Lord. My goodness.
That's why we got to be very careful, saints. We do.
Yes.
We got to be more how can I say it? More careful about even where we eat at nowadays. Because they're not getting the products and it's not looking like it should on the picture. And you wonder what they doing in back of the kitchen. And you sitting out there waiting on it to come to you.
My goodness, Sister Parker, you done messed me up. Popeyes.
Yes, Pastor.
I almost muted you, but the Lord said, leave her alone.
You mute me. You're going to see me Saturday. You're going to see me Saturday.
No, it needs to be out there.
And you're going to have a disgruntled old lady in the audience.
I would never do that to you. But people need to know. And so I'm glad that you're sharing it. Yes. Deacon Allen, go right ahead.
Yeah, I was just reacting to what Sister Parker said. Somebody said it to me this way: when is the last time you ever wanted a 16-year-old boy to make your food? So every time you go to Popeyes or McDonald's or any place, just remember, I have all my kids have worked at these fast food places, and the stories they bring home certainly don't want to make you go eat there. And so they won't eat there anymore. And they say, why would you ever let a 16-year-old make your food where you can't see? So just food for thought.
Great point. Great point. Y'all helping me. Y'all helping me. Thank you so much. Deacon Mike, go right ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember that story about the rats running around and chicken.
Now here you go. Okay, go ahead.
I remember that story, but if you want to know some real good stories, I'll have to sit you down. When I used to work at Sherwood Food Distributor, I did maintenance there, and I've seen how these guys handled food. I've seen some nasty things there. You know, and you know, it's very well true how our food products are being handled. It would be enough to make anybody sick.
Well, you know, you all of you make a good point, because you just made me think about something. It took COVID to make Americans wash their hands, and it stopped already. COVID ain't even over. It stopped washing their hands already. I've been flying. Sounds like they back to what they were doing before, just walking right out the bathroom and doing who knows what. So if you're watching this video, please like this video and share it with your friends and family and get them informed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Let's see if we can get a little further down the road. Okay, Mother Watts.
Okay, but what about the internal condition of the various meat sources? Millions of diseased carcasses are processed through packing houses and sold to American consumers. At least 80 diseases are common to animals, which can be transmitted to other animals and very likely to human beings as well. Even proper meat inspections does not mitigate the disease hazards because microscopic examinations are not possible in the inspection procedure. Often, cancerous sores are often cut out of the carcasses, and the rest of the animal is sold for food. Obviously, the cancer virus is spread throughout the body of the animal.
My Lord. Wow.
Jeez. And in poultry alone, 26 diseases have been identified, which are common to both man and animal. Virtually all chickens carry leukosis viruses, and chicken farmers run 6 times more risk of dying from leukemia than do non-farmers.
Wow.
Wow. Meat is the perfect medium for growing bacteria. Putrefaction begins almost immediately in a slaughtered animal and progresses rapidly. There is no way to prevent the deterioration. When the effects of spoilage becomes obvious through color, smell, and taste, large amounts of chemicals are pumped into the decaying flesh to restore appearances. Ooh. Picture, if you can, the combined effects of the animal's own waste material trapped in the flesh, plus the chemical additives of the animal's fast grow food supply, plus the external filth factor of the packing houses, plus the various injections of cosmetic preservatives. What do you have? A wholly unfit source of protein. Wow. That's not good.
All right, a hand came right on up. Is that Sister Veronica? Good.
Yes, Pastor. I just have a question. Well, first of all, let me make a comment. Sister Watts, when you just read that, I better go back to my being vegan, because that was gross. All the way you were talking about, it just, I need to go back to vegan, because I can't believe it. Just like I'm picturing all this going in my stomach, and right now my stomach is upset. But Pastor, a question that I want to ask, okay? When Jesus was here, all right, and the disciples and all of them, and they're going to all these feasts and weddings, did they eat meat? What about when he broke the fish and the bread? you know, you're saying that about the pastors, you know, that preaching against it or eating it. But did Abigail, shh, I'm on the phone, babe. So I'm just asking, did they eat meat
Okay.
then? Did Jesus eat meat when he was there? It's a
All right. Well,
question I want to have.
let's put the whole thing in context. I'll start with Acts chapter 10 and go backwards. Remember when Peter had the dream about the table with all the unclean foods on it? And his response was, Lord, you know, I would never eat anything unclean. So this is after the resurrection and after all of that. So you have the backdrop of the Jewish laws concerning food were being followed during the time that Jesus of his ministry, during the Gospels, because the apostles testify to that. Right. So we know that, first of all, it didn't eat anything unclean. And then we know that they were following the Jewish laws of kosher and clean foods. Now, what we know for sure, I will not go beyond what we know for sure, is that Jesus ate clean fish, you know, before and after the resurrection. But if you look closely at the reading tonight, the case has been made based on two time periods. The contamination of meat during Sister White's time, between the 1840s and 1915, and then the contamination of meats during the author's time, Creeping Compromise. He's giving us reports from 1971. So it's comparing apples to oranges to compare the meats of the today to the meats of the times of the Gospels. So what I'm saying is, beyond the fish that we know of, it would be then irrelevant to try to compare now to what they were eating because of all the things that are done to meat now. Now, when you talk about the Jewish laws, you know, there was a time for the Passover lamb and the family ate the Passover lamb. So you can add the lamb to the fish, but I'm not sure if it's safe to go further beyond that. Okay. Does that help at all? Or I just did the pastor thing and got you confused?
It does, Pastor. No. I understand everything you're saying. Yes, I do, Pastor.
Yeah, I
Because
just
now
don't
the
think it's
meat is
unfair.
different from what it was back then.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a fair comparison, and anybody can come and refute that. But I just don't think it's a one-to-one comparison, because we live in a time of industry and mass production. They lived in a time of wild caught and fresh food. They caught it themselves, cleaned it themselves, and cooked it themselves. That's vastly different from what industry puts in the water and in the soil is completely different than natural, the way it was back then. All right, Elder Parker.
I was looking at and listening to Mother Watt reading this one screenshot you have up here. And I looked at all the pluses that's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Picture, if you can, the combined effects of the animal's own waste materials. That's bad enough. Trapped in the flesh. Plus the chemical additives of the animal's fast growth food supply. Plus the external filth factor of the packing house. Plus the various injections of cosmetic preservatives. What do you have? A wholly unfit source of protein. Now that's just that. That's all that is. Now, back in another slide, and you have to go back, but they were talking about how an animal would have cancerous part of them cut out, and then the rest of the meat would still be sold. And it brought them to mind, and I think it's in Leviticus, where God told the Israelites not to eat any animal that died of itself. In other words, that died of old age or just dropped dead, natural causes or whatever. They were not even supposed to eat that animal. Not at all, period. anything that died on its own, they were not supposed to eat, because what did he say? You do not know what caused that animal to die.
Now, Elder Parker, you can continue, but when I was in the Middle East, when I was in the military, that's the way it was then. That was in the 90s. They didn't touch animals that died on their own. They left them right where they were. And I just happened to be stationed in a place where the animals came to die. And they made us stay there for some time too. It was a hill that animals would just barely had enough energy to get there and die. And the people from that place did not touch them at all. They didn't let alone eat them. They wouldn't touch them. So those bodies were all over the place.
Amen. And that's what the God said too. Don't even touch it. See, but we eat food. We eat, when I say food, I'm talking about meat or whatever. We have no idea how it was grown, where it came from. I mean, they say Honduras. Okay, it came from Honduras. But what happened in Honduras when this food was grown, or the animal was raised, whatever? We hardly have any production here in the United States of anything anymore. Hardly anything. Most of our food, the biggest majority of our food, is transported in. So we have nothing that is hardly is grown here naturally. So we need to continue to pray over our food at all times, irregardless of what it is. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be quiet. I was reading an article and it was saying that organic farms, and it's gonna grow some people out, so I'm gonna try to keep it clean. Some organic farms have been shut down. Now, notice the term organic. Most people are doing what? Buying organic food now because it's supposed to be what? Healthier. They shut them down because a chemical they were putting on that land has contaminated that land, and it is mixed with fecal matter. But it's supposed to be organic farming. So that's why I say we have to be very careful on what we eat. Even though they say organic, nothing is organic because it is not grown naturally anymore. I don't care what they say. I work in a grocery store that sell organic food. People ask me, how is this? I said, I don't buy organic food. You don't? Why not? I said, explain to me, how is it organic compared to that grown over there right next door to it? That's supposed to be not be organic.
Wow. Y'all dropping the haymakers tonight. I haven't had dinner. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have a bottle of water. I probably need to test that and make sure it's clean. Thank you so much, Elder. Deacon Mike, go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to comment about the organic stuff. You know, we got to ask ourselves, first of all, how true that might be, because our government runs farmers. They tell farmers what they can grow, what they can harvest, what they cannot harvest. You know, this has been ongoing. And they tell farmers what they can slaughter, what they cannot slaughter. So what would our government do to organic farms, you know, by, you know, because they are supposed to be healthier? Would that mean that they might put bad news out about these organic farmers? It's just a question.
Yeah, I don't. I've had my suspicions about that, but you know, I don't know. I don't know. I guess we would like to hope that there's something better when you spend the extra money for organic or farm raised or non-GMO. But it all comes down to taking somebody's word for it.
Yep.
All right, Elder Pam.
I was gonna say, even if the meat didn't have bacteria in it, even if it was perfect meat that you grew yourself, it still increases health problems. It still increases your risk of colon cancer, coronary artery disease, diabetes, everything, because of it's being meat and having a lot of unsaturated and saturated fats in it, and just being meat all by itself. And of course, it's been shown, as you alluded to, Pastor, that vegetarian and vegan diets are much healthier than diets with meat in it, even if meat was perfect and it didn't have all the stuff that we know it has in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember when I was in school and they showed us what the proper meat portion should be in a meal, and that ain't nothing but a nugget to my family. No, they show that little bitty circle of meat in proportion to the other food groups that should be on your plate. It's very small compared to what Americans normally put on their plate. And that is a good point. That's why earlier when the other pastor and I were talking, I was saying, go by the results. What are the results of eating it? And we can't use that one uncle that's living forever, smoking, drinking, and and eating steaks every day, and he just fine. You got to go by what happens to the majority of people. So very, very good point. I hope everybody's paying attention watching this video. Okay. So what is in front? Somebody else want to come in? Oh, okay. So what is in front of us is not just about what is on the grill. It's about American culture, isn't it? For instance, if I said some things to you, listen to this, 4th of July, right? How you gonna have 4th of July without this guy? Family reunion, right? You say family reunion, you're gonna smell something cooking. Church picnic. Yeah, that too. When we say potluck, if it's inside, we'll be careful. But if it's outside, oh, it's on, right?
Oh yeah.
Who this
smell the smoke now?
You can smell it now. So look, I might behave if it's inside, but if it's outside, I'm gonna lift up my trunk and everybody gonna pay attention, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's more than just that, and certainly we talked last week about the taste of food and the smell of food, but it's also our culture, isn't it? Isn't it also the American way of life?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
And we get conditioned to that when?
From our youth up.
Immediately. I've seen, this is just my family, I've seen mama take a little sauce off the plate and stick it in the baby's mouth.
Yes.
They can't even eat solid food yet, but
Amen.
They know that taste of that sauce.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Sister Parker.
You know what? Looking at how he's cooking and what he's cooking this on, look at the side where all that grease is.
I saw that too. Yes.
Yeah, all that grease and the what he's using and the grill and stuff. And I wonder, do he clean all that up every night? Because if he don't, you got bacteria and stuff floating around, and then you coming back tomorrow and putting a new set of meat on top of that stuff.
But what do Americans say, Sister Parker?
Nothing. They buy.
No, we say the fire or burn it up. That's what we say.
But still.
Amen. Amen.
See, listen to your husband. We say as Americans, if the fire takes care of everything, if it take care of sin on Judgment Day, it could take care of my ribs today.
But Pastor, look what it's drawing, the insects.
I'm with you. I'm just telling you.
And the rats, more than likely.
Mercy.
Because it looks like he don't clean that every night. You can tell he do not clean that every night.
It's just
you do not.
I don't know him. I don't know him. It's just it's just a picture.
I mean, he gotta have a income, but the thing is what he's doing.
But the fire cleans it up.
Yeah, that's what Americans say. If you burn it, it's good.
That's right.
But it's all about the blood.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, if you're still watching this video, God bless you. That means you really love the Lord. If you're a meat eater and you are still watching, so please watch it on. We are almost done. So I don't want to skip over this particular conversation. We almost done. I'm a little behind the time than you guys, so you got to help me if I'm going too long. because I get all twisted up in my head about the difference in the time zone. People really kind of danced around and the issue about the impact of the habits of the preacher. And I don't want you to, because when we talked about everything else, when we talked about the women, we didn't skip that. When we talk about the men, we didn't skip that. We talk about dress, we talk about everything else. If there's something you want to say or thoughts you have, then you ought to be just as honest tonight as you would be on any night. Don't worry about me. I'll be okay. Elder Hood, go right ahead.
Yes, I think it's very important because we, as a people, we're Christians first, and yet we are Seventh-day Adventist Christians. And if we believe in the doctrine of our church, we believe that Ellen White was a prophetess given to us by God. She calls herself, references herself as a lesser light. And if we believe the counsel that she has given, and we've seen the evidence of the counsel that she's given, just because it's referencing those who shepherd the flock, doesn't mean that it is any less significant. And so when it's mentioning health reform, you can't really preach the third angel's message unless diet has been controlled. Because if we really believe spirit of prophecy and last day events, and COVID to me is a perfect demonstration of how relevant and real prophecy is. Because think about it, when COVID came about, churches shut down, nobody's coming in the building, and we still don't know where we're headed. We still have not, quote unquote, recovered. And as it's been said, what is normal today? Will we ever go back to that? Those mega churches are shut down. And even if individuals are in the building, there are a whole lot of empty seats. So if we believe that, who is to finish the work? Because, I believe Pastor Hood or someone was saying that we're not called, our job in this is doing the work that we're called to do. God himself will finish the work. So if my job, if my responsibility is whatever I'm called to do, then if the health message is what will be used to finish the work, then if I'm not healthy, how in the world can the preacher stand in the pulpit and try to tell me about Jesus and this, that, and the other when he or she themselves are unhealthy? And so I think it's very relevant, it's very apropos that the man and woman of God lead by example, because we are not just any type of Christians, we're Seventh-day Adventist Christians who believe in a message. And if we are to preach that message, we are to live it, starting with the pastor.
No, wait a minute. You got to go back to the reading. He said the pastor and his family, just for the record.
Okay. Well, the pastor, let me for clear. The pastor,
go back to the page.
Yes, and thank you, Pastor Hood, because yes, it's a family affair. He's the head of the house. He's the priest of the home. Yet the family, because we're representing God as a family, because he instituted a family. That is his design. And so yes, it can't be well, you do your thing and I do your thing. No, the family has to be on one accord when it comes to the health message. So thank you, Pastor Hood. And yes.
All right. Like I told you, I'm going to give my thoughts at the end here, and we're almost there. Elder Pam, go right ahead.
I'm looking at this picture and I see this guy, he's overweight, he's got a hamburger in his mouth, but he also has French fries and a milkshake there. Yeah. So I know we're talking about meat today, and I understand that, but then you got to do the whole message.
Yeah, it's on purpose. You're on point. It's on purpose. I put this here on purpose. Go ahead.
Okay. And he's sitting down at the computer, no exercising, but as far as the Seventh-day Adventist church and pastors, I've seen a lot of overweight pastors in the church.
Yeah, it's a
They were
sedentary lifestyle.
vegetarians.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Some of them said they were vegetarians. You can
Yes,
eat.
it's a sedentary lifestyle. That's
Right.
why, even if it's vegetarian, that's one leg of the health message. There's the other part too, you just mentioned. Go ahead, Elder Pam. I want you to keep talking.
I was done. I just wanted to point that out. And Elder Hood was basically saying that when she's talking about the message, we got to do the whole message. And so not eating meat is part of it. Not overeating is another part of it. It's a lot of it that's there.
Yeah.
Yes, we all need to do it.
Yeah. There's the water intake. There's the moving. There's all this stuff. But I say I'm gonna tell some about myself right here at the end. Go ahead, Elder Hood. Sister Hood, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is the last part. I forgot the reason why it is so important in reference to health reform in the last days, because this is how we're going to. This is one of the tools that God is going to use, because individuals will not listen to remember the Sabbath day, but they'll listen when they see, wow, your skin is beautiful. Wow, your mom levels was 16 and mine was 70, and yet, it affected me. How could that be? I'm glad you asked. And so I just see that, our sacrifices and what we're being asked to do, everything God requires has a purpose. And even though we don't understand it all, we don't have to. We just have to be willing to trust Him in all things, because my health is not just about me. It's not just about you. Our health is about our message and that we're sending to the world and how we can reach the world.
Excellent. Yes. And as Dr. Pam was saying a moment ago, well, she didn't say it, but I thought of it when she was talking. The witness of health here crosses denominational lines. Everybody understands health challenges, whether they agree with your doctrine or not. As you're saying, Lisa, the proof is in the pudding. When you use it, people can see it. And so, yeah, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. I want to give these people a chance to talk. Deacon Mike, go right ahead.
Yeah, we're talking about how bad meats are for us. There's something else that's bad for us and we don't even realize it. And I've been finding out more and more about it. And it's something I love more than anything, and that's cheese.
Yeah.
There's silicone in cheese. Man, that's nasty. We're eating silicone.
They don't. They're just trying to make money. The customer or the end user is irrelevant. They just want you to exchange money for a product. And so whatever boost up the taste and make it stay on the shelf longer, they'll do it.
So what my message is on that aspect is we really got to watch what we eat, because we got to make our light shine.
Yeah. Well, my wife told me a while ago to stop bringing it home. I would get it from Sam's and it'd be like 3 big blocks of Kraft single cheese. She told me stop doing it. So I stopped doing it a while back. And it really hadn't made a difference. We hadn't missed a thing. So good there, Deacon Mike. Deacon King, man, go right ahead.
The beautiful thing, Pastor, about what our wives was just sharing about the commitment for the health ministry is that we all know the message, and the evidence is in the historical writings that we as Seventh-day Adventists have had. The record number of people living to 100 years of age and past. And it seems as though the present generation is trying to change, move away from the health message so we can be comfortable as Seventh-day Adventists, rather than being changed by the health message so that we can live longer and continue to minister God's message to the world. And then to put a cap on it, it has evidence also that any culture that comes in and take on the American culture, your lifespan is decreased by 10 years or more just because of our diets from other cultures. So we have to be very open to the testimony of the health message and the three angels message and the other messages that we have at the Remnant Church. Instead of trying to change it, we should be moving more committedly that it changes and improves us. Amen.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all hanging in there. I think this is the end here. Well, y'all okay? Or y'all want me to let it go till next week? Y'all all right? I think it's only a couple of
I'm
slides.
fine.
Somebody
I'm
say-
good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. All right. Well, let's carry on then.
Okay, chapter 9, page 96.
Oh, by the way, I gave my book away while I was in Denver yesterday. So these page numbers may not correlate to what you have in your book. I'll fix it for next week when I get another book when I get home. So page numbers may be a little bit off, but it's pretty close. Go ahead, Mother Wise.
Okay. But what can be said to impress Seventh-day Adventists who have not been impressed by the clear statements of inspiration? Those who are ruled by appetite rather than principle will be no more moved by scientific fact than by divine counsel. In the light of disputable evidence, some still feed on hot dogs that contain a mismatch of animals' ears, feet, snouts, udders, brains, bladders, eyes, tongues, and blood.
Ooh, I didn't know all that was in hot dogs.
Oh, me either. Finally, what are we going to do about the New Testament law concerning the eating of blood? The inspired leaders of that early church spent long hours in discussing the basic requirements for Gentile membership. Their conclusion is recorded in Acts 15, 19, and 20, where James speaks for the entire council. Wherefore, my sentence is that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, well, that strangling, we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Well, all you stranglers out there, you're going to have to stop it right now. All right.
Okay. How can anyone abstain from eating blood when he feeds on the marketplace variety of slaughtered animals? The flesh is gorged with blood, sometimes artificially injected to give a healthy color to rotten meat. To follow the prescribed biblical laws of draining all blood from the animal would render the flesh almost tasteless.
Oh boy. All right, that's the end of the reading tonight, and the participation has been fantastic. I want to share something with you. Leading up to COVID, about 4 years before, I set on a journey to lose 100 pounds. And I had lost 60, but I did it without dieting. Let me say it one more time. I did it without dieting, without counting calories or anything like that. It was simply this: increasing the water intake by starting first thing in the morning and putting a tablespoon, and it ended up being 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in that first glass of water, or putting a little lemon, squeezing a little lemon in that. And it was amazing how quickly I was not thirsty. I mean, not hungry for snacking. It wasn't the meals, it was the snacking. So suddenly I had energy to do more honeydews. I was out there just cutting down trees and doing whatever that my wife had asked me to do for years. I was out there all day messing around in the yard and doing things, and around the house, had energy to burn. And I lost 60 pounds in about 6 months. And I was able to keep that off for 3.5 years without even worrying about it. I just was very active, drinking a lot of water every day. And then we moved here and COVID came, and then I was stuck in the house. And I'm not using it as an excuse, but I can see the difference in becoming sedentary. When you're sedentary and you don't have a purpose, you're not moving around, then you're going to reach for food. So it wasn't just about meat. It really was about meat, but it wasn't just about meat. It's also about all these artificial things that don't grow out of the ground, such as bag after bag of potato chips, chocolate, that kind of thing. You always heard me talk about butter pecan ice cream. But I want to tell you, when I was very active before COVID, I didn't even think about those things. The days just kind of flew by. And the best benefit, other than the way that I looked when I came to Southeast, is it also changes your mood. When you ingest artificial GMO products, if you're a person who has a temper, a person who can get frustrated easy, all of these things are heightened by eating junk food, empty calories. And so I just want to give my testimony because, and again, if I can just be completely honest with you, when we moved to the neighborhood that we're in during COVID, all this stuff was going on about Ahmaud Arbery jogging and he gets killed and all this. But he said he was jogging, whatever he was doing. People who said he wasn't where he was supposed to be. I kind of stopped my daily routine of at least once or even twice a day, speed walking for miles with weights on my back. My wife is on, she can testify to it. I would do it every day, rain or shine. And so I want to go back to that. And this book is really being an encouragement to me to get back to what I was doing prior to COVID. And I hope that my story serves as an inspiration to you. Now, I won't have to tell you that I'm back to doing it. Over time, you'll see it. All right. I hope that you have enjoyed the study for tonight. We will continue on next Wednesday. Any other thoughts before we close out? Oh, Elder Pam, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's interesting that I had that meatless meal before we came on today, and it was tasty. It was really, really good. And just listening to this, I think I need to go back to doing the health reform too. And he asked as if it was a moral failure. I mean, when Ellen White, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm just going to say when Ellen White came up with this, she said it's not secular, that there is some theology to this about living healthy. So to her, it was theological. So moral failure or not, to her, it was more than secular. It was theological.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that back up. I forgot about that question. And I wanted to save my answer to the end because I didn't want to go off down another rabbit trail. But I saw it and see it as a part of pressing toward the mark. I'm no longer asking God what the bare minimum is. I'm asking God what my best can be through the Holy Spirit. So I'm glad you brought that back up. Elder Hood, go right ahead.
Yes, and I tell you, I will receive this as God knew that we would have this study, that we will be in this place and in this season for such a time as this. With that being said, your very own Southeast Women's Ministries will begin a cooking class. Not just a cooking class, but we're going to actually do a cooking show, which will help us in our endeavor with healthy living and healthy eating. Thank you.
All right, Sister Hood. I'm on the road and I got 4 ribs left. I'm supposed to be a good steward. Don't mess with my ribs before I get home. Look, y'all, I'm just joking. Leave me alone. Okay, any other thoughts before before we get off? Okay, all right. Well, I thought it was a great, oh, thank you, Mike. I thought it was a great lesson tonight, a bit challenging. I mean, y'all brought the heat, but I think that we can handle it. We're grown-ups, and I believe God brings things to us to inspire us, not to discourage us. So let's pray. And if you have any comments and you weren't here with us live, we'd love for you to give your comments or give us a call, any one of us, and we'll be glad to talk to you about it. Lord, thank you for the conversation tonight. We just ask that every man and every woman examine their own heart and ask you the questions that were asked of me tonight, that we all look in the mirror and say, can I do a little bit better? Like Sister White, she took it one step at a time, one day at a time. It didn't happen just like that for her. Just because she was anointed, she had the same fleshly struggle as all of us. And so, Lord, we take that as inspiration, and we thank you for helping us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.